You join me in prayer. Let the words of my mouth and the meditations of our hearts be acceptable in your sight, O Lord, our rock and our Redeemer. Amen. Who brought you here? I don't mean today, I mean, who brought you into this church? Who's the person most responsible for connecting you with this faith community? Would you just call out their names right now? Alan Harmon, Karen Weideman, Wes Kimball. Today, about 89% of us come into the church through someone else. Someone invites us. Someone accompanies us. Someone cares enough about us to reach out and connect us with a community of faith, hoping that it might become a spiritual home. That's why it's so important for us to invite the people we know and love to come into church with us. They aren't likely to show up on their own. Most people today are yearning for deep community. They are eager to move beyond the empty promises of our consumer culture. They are searching for places where they can explore the questions of purpose and meaning that they wrestle with. They're looking for ways of offering their gifts and talents in the service of others, not inviting people we know and love to come to church with us is kind of like knowing the location of a great reservoir and refusing to tell thirsty people where they can find water. So last Thursday night, Emily Barda and Oz Rinke hosted a great event in the courtyard here at First Congregational Church called Pints and Paints. It was a fundraiser for Creative Encountering, a ministry that Emily has developed in our church, but it was a great opportunity to invite someone new to have a good, non-threatening first contact with our church. There were 2 different beers on tap from the Territorial Brewing Company here in Battle Creek, which made the evening attractive to those of us who enjoy locally crafted beers. Marilyn Strobel prepared some delicious hors d'oeuvres for everyone to enjoy, and Oz and Emily coached us through the process of creating beautifully framed works of art with inspirational quotes. It was fun, it was relaxing, it was playful, it was creative. Everyone had a good time and went home with a really nice piece of finished art that was framed and ready to hang on the wall or give away as a gift. 32 people attended, and what really excited me was a lot of them were people who weren't church members but had been invited by someone in our faith community. It's important for us to seek out opportunities for inviting others into our faith community. Most of us are here today because of someone else. We have relational connections with people who brought us here. Parents, grandparents, neighbors, mentors, colleagues, friends. But we also have spiritual connections with people who brought us here. We're here today because of a whole host of spiritual ancestors whose faith preceded us and has been a source of inspiration to generations of believers who've come before us. Today, our text from the Acts of the Apostles focuses our attention on our spiritual connection with a man named Saul from Tarsus. Saul eventually became known as the Apostle Paul, and the truth is, none of us would be here today without him. Paul was the first century contemporary of Jesus who, more than anyone else, picked up the mantle of Jesus and carried it forward. Paul transformed Christianity from a small sect within Judaism into a global movement. He had a passion for reaching out to the first century equivalent of the people we refer to today as the spiritual but not religious. Those who were searching for more in life but hadn't yet found their spiritual home. Most of our New Testament collection consists of Paul's writings. He was willing to reach across boundaries of race, culture, class, and gender to invite people into Christian community, and was successful in planting churches all throughout the ancient Mediterranean world, in Galatia and Colossia, Ephesus, Philippi, Thessalonica, and Corinth. But here's the thing. Most of us would probably not have reached out to Paul and invited him into our faith community. Paul, or Saul as he was known then, had not demonstrated any particular interest in joining the community of believers that were known then as followers of the way. In fact, Paul was vehemently opposed to them and denounced them as heretics who were corrupting the laws of Moses. Instead of joining them, Saul was set on destroying them and had been authorized by the temple authorities in Jerusalem to go to Damascus and arrest followers of the way and bring them bound in chains back to Jerusalem to stand trial for heresy. Based on his history of persecuting the church, no one would have ever predicted that he would one day become the greatest evangelist of the church. And that, I believe, is the thing we all need to pay attention to. We judge people by their past. Talk to anyone in our community with a felony conviction who has tried to find a job. Even after they've served their time, paid off their fines and costs, and successfully completed their parole, most potential employers won't even give them an interview once they disclose their felony conviction. We know that a person's previous behavior is a good predictor of their future behavior. If they were honest, hardworking, reliable, dependable, respectful in their previous job, chances are good that they'll exhibit those same qualities in the future. If they were deceitful, manipulative, untrustworthy, volatile in the past, chances are good that they'll behave that way in the future. Every personnel director knows that the best predictor of future behavior is prior work history. But there was nothing in Saul's history to indicate that he would be a good choice for picking up the mantle of Jesus and proclaiming his gospel of good news and organizing Christian communities of mutual support and accountability. But from our earliest days, we, followers of the way, have refused to judge people by their past. Paul was identified as God's chosen instrument not because of his past, but because of his potential. Christ saw in Saul the strengths that would make him a great evangelist. His life had always been ruled by his strong convictions. He was able and willing to take control of situations and make decisions on his own. He possessed strong inner self-assurance and wasn't discouraged by the criticisms of others. The same qualities that had made him such a fierce adversary of the way made him the greatest evangelist of all time. In our culture, we tend to judge people by their past, but our faith challenges us to view people through their potential. We feel confident that the best predictor of future achievements is to look back at people's previous accomplishments, but our faith challenges us to focus on people's strengths and to imagine the good things that they might accomplish once those strengths are given over into the service of God. In our own personal lives, when we make decisions about what to say yes to and what to say no to, we often base our decisions on our previous experiences. We say yes to the things that we already know we can do, things that we've been successful in doing in our past, but our faith challenges us to be open to using our strengths in new ways, to respond to the needs of the world around us based on our capabilities, not our previous experiences. As we listen to the voice of God calling to us, saying, "You are an instrument whom I've chosen," we don't have to be afraid of saying, "I've never done that before. I don't have any experience in that area," as long as we can identify the particular God-given strengths that we bring to any challenge or opportunity. So what might it look like if we stopped inviting people to do things because they've done them in the past, or because they're willing to say yes to whatever needs to be done, and instead challenged people to do what they do best? What if our church became a church in which everyone went through our Strength Finder small groups and had a name tag with their 5 greatest strengths prominently displayed for everyone to see? Mine would say Tamat, learner, achiever, responsible, strategic, adaptable. Do you know what yours would say? What if instead of asking people to do things that we want them to do, we began challenging each other to discern what we feel called to do with our particular strengths? What if instead of repeating what we've always done in the past, we began to dream about the possibilities that each of us could achieve in the future by using our strengths in new ways? What if we made it our mission to give everyone the opportunities and the resources and the training and the encouragement that they need to risk trying those things that only they can accomplish because of the unique combination of strengths that they possess? We are accustomed to judging people based on what they've accomplished in the past. But the amazing story of transformation that turns Saul, the persecutor of Christians, into Paul, the greatest evangelist of Christianity, challenges us to focus not on a person's past, but on their potential. We are all here today because one of our spiritual forebears was challenged to use his particular strengths in new ways to the glory of God. We are here because Ananias, a member of the faith community in Damascus, spent time in prayerful discernment and had come to see Saul not as the frightening adversary he'd behaved like in the past, but as someone with great potential for spreading the good news of the gospel. In spite of Saul's past, Ananias reached out to him, laid hands on him, and invited him into the fellowship of the community known as the Way. As we continue to move through these 3 months of spiritual discernment here at First Congregational Church, our challenge is to see everyone from Christ's perspective. Not to judge each other by our past, but to affirm each other's potential and to welcome everyone with the same greeting that the risen Christ spoke when he called Paul. You are my instrument, whom I have chosen. Amen.